El Día de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, is a 2-day festival that is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd of each year. Celebrated throughout Mexico, parts of Latin America, and now many parts of the US, Dia de los Muertos is not necessarily a day of mourning, but a celebration as we commemorate friends and family who have passed. Dia de los Muertos has origins in indigenous traditions, which were then transformed by the Spanish and the Catholic Church. Although associated with All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd, Dia de los Muertos is a joyful, often whimsical celebration rather than a solemn, serious holiday. And no, it's not Mexican Halloween, as Halloween is a Northern European tradition. Today, November 1st of Dia de Muertos honors those who died in childhood, and November 2nd honors people who died as adults. The celebration of Dia de Muertos varies from state to state, from municipality to municipality, and from pueblo to pueblo. However, throughout the country it has the same core principle: to bring families and loved ones together to welcome back those who come to visit from the beyond. As loved ones come home to the world of the living to visit their families, it would be rude not to leave something out for them. Although food is frequently left out for the dead, they don't necessarily eat the food. Rather, they absorb the food's essence after their long journey back home. Aside from food, Dia de Muertos ofrendas and altares typically include colored shredded paper that is generally purple, pink, and orange, as these symbolize the union of life and death, personal belongings and photos of the deceased as a tribute to them, and, not to confuse them when they come back. Natural water, which reflects the purity of the soul, the continuous sky of regeneration of life and crops, and in the ofrenda, a glass of water serves to quench the dead's thirst after the trip from the world of the dead. Candles, or veladoras, preferably white, which symbolize love and guide souls home. Salt prevents the soul from being corrupted on its return to the underworld and can return to earth the following year. Copal is used to cleanse the place of evil spirits so that the soul can enter your home without any danger of them bringing something else with them. And yes, Coco got it right. The cempasúchil, or marigold flower, is also a key element in any ofrenda. Cempasúchil was considered by Aztecs to be a flower similar to the sun. For them, the Aztecs, the sun was the origin of everything, and the marigold flower would illuminate and adorn the path of the dead as they came from Mictlán, the underworld. The most representative element of Dia de Muertos, an altar or ofrenda, can have 3 floors representing earth, heaven, and purgatory. But like that kid who was always extra in your school projects, some people build altares with 7 floors to illustrate the stages that the soul must go through on the way to the underworld. Dia de los Muertos is a Mestizo tradition that blends indigenous customs with Spanish Catholic religious rituals. The Mexica, or Aztecs, believed that most people crossed into Mictlán, the Aztec underworld, after they died. Mictlán consisted of 9 different levels, which would take 4 years to cross, as these levels had obstacles like mountains that crashed into each other or rivers brimming with jaguars. The dead would cross Mictlán with the help of a xoloitzcuintle, an emblematic dog of Mexico, or with the help of the dog god himself, Xolotl. With the arrival of the Spanish came the Christian calendar. All Saints and All Souls Days happened to coincide with the end of the agricultural cycle of maíz, or corn, an ever-important crop in Mexico. So in typical Mestizo tradition, the Spaniards incorporated versions of their own holidays to replace the native harvest festivities, thus blending the indigenous and Spanish traditions together. The pre-Hispanic customs of cremating the dead or burying them at home were also eliminated, and corpses began to be buried in churches instead. Like in Europe, the rich were buried inside the church, and the poor in the atrium, or outside the church. Pan de muerto, or bread of the dead, is a must in any family's ofrenda to their dead. Pan de muerto is a pan dulce, which means sweet, that comes from pre-Hispanic times. The pan is decorated with 4 cross-shaped bones, which symbolize the 4 directions of the universe in pre-Columbian cosmology. The bones are laid out in a circle to portray the circle of life. Prior to the arrival of the Spanish, pan de muertos was made with corn dough. However, today, the bread is now made with wheat flour. Given the cooler temperatures, tamales and atole, mole and pozole are also popular foods eaten during this time. Families wash down their meals with mezcal, tequila, or coffee. Calacas are also popular during Día de los Muertos, generally depicted as happy and joyful rather than as frightening or mournful figures. This again draws on the Mexican belief that we should not think of the dead in a sad way, as sooner or later we all die. A popular phrase among Mexicans is "se lo llevó la calaca," after someone they personally know has died, literally meaning the calaca took him. Calaveras can be directly painted onto a person's face and also be made from sugar paste or chocolate. They're decorated with nuts, sequins, and colorful icing, and serve both decorative and delicious purposes. Mexican artist Jose Guadalupe Posada created a caricature well known today, which was originally meant to make fun of poor people who pretended to be rich. The Great Lady of Death, La Catrina, appeared for the first time in 1912, created by the Mexican illustrator Jose Guadalupe Posada. La Catrina is usually shown with a characteristic Victorian dress, flower headdress, indigenous costume, and folk elements. In her, everything that Dia de Muertos represents is shown: bright colors, joy, and of course, the transition to the afterlife. In the days leading up to Dia de Muertos, Catrinas are present in all cities and communities of Mexico. She also appears in parades such as El Desfile de Dia de Muertos in Mexico City. In 1946, Diego Rivera captured Posada en La Catrina en the mural Sueño de una tarde dominical en la Alameda Central, calling her Catrina in mockery of the high aristocracy of the time. Since then, that name has stuck. Recently, the pizza effect, or the foreign importation of an idea or concept, happened after the 2015 James Bond film Spectre depicted a fictional Dia de Muertos parade in Mexico City. Inspired by the film, Mexican officials have since hosted a Dia de Muertos parade each year. The parade shows a spectacular display of creativity filled with skulls, Catrinas, Alebrijes, and marigold flowers down the Paseo de la Reforma in the Mexican capital. At the end of Dia de Muertos, on November 3rd, the families proceed to eat the offerings, which by then has already been taken in essence by the deceased of the family. Ultimately, Dia de Muertos celebrates loved ones who have passed in a happy and cheerful atmosphere, bringing families and friends together. Rooted in Mestizo traditions, Dia de Muertos has transcended its Mexican borders and is now present in pop culture. At its core, though, Dia de Muertos is a reaffirmation of life through death. Let us know if we missed any of your favorite parts of Dia de los Muertos in the comments below. Peace!